The Bhagavad Gita is a 1st or 2nd century BCE work of Hindu scripture traditionally attributed to a sage called Veda Vyasa, although many modern scholars see several authors. Bhagavad Gita means God's song, the God in question being Krishna, who in this text stands for the Supreme Being. It consists of 18 short verse chapters. It's part of a much longer narrative poem called the Mahabharata, although it's different in style to the Mahabharata, and many scholars think it was added later. The Mahabharata concerns two groups of feuding cousins, the Pandavas and the Kauravas. The Pandavas are the morally better of the two, and the story ends with them confronting the Kauravas on the battlefield. Prior to this, both parties have paid a visit to Krishna in order to secure his help. Krishna offers them a choice, either himself alone or his entire army. If they choose him, he won't offer any material assistance, he'll just be there to advise. The Kauravas choose the army, the Pandavas Krishna, and so Krishna ends up being charioteer to Arjuna, one of the younger Pandava brothers and a great warrior. On the day the two sides assemble for battle, however, Arjuna has a moral crisis of nerve. The Kauravas and the Pandavas may be enemies, but they're cousins, and they grew up in the same household together. Facing us on the field of battle, he tells Krishna, are fathers and sons, grandfathers, grandsons, wives' brothers, mothers' brothers, and fathers of wives. These I do not wish to slay, even if I myself am slain. To cut a long story short, the Bhagavad Gita is an account of the reassurance offered by Krishna. To begin with, Arjuna is a member of the warrior caste, and it's the duty of that caste to fight. If anyone does his duty for no reward, Krishna says, they'll always be in the right. Secondly, the universe is an eternal cycle of birth, apparent death, then rebirth. No one ever really dies. This is a restatement of the Hindu concept of Maya, a term first introduced in a much older set of sacred texts called the Vedas, written between 1500 and 500 BCE. Maya means illusion and signifies the fact that the world, as we experience it, is not reflective of the underlying ultimate reality. The Bhagavad Gita is partly an exposition of two of what later became the 6 schools of Hindu philosophy. Samkhya, as the first school is called, claims that reality consists of 2 basic categories, Purusha, which means something like universal consciousness, and Prakriti, matter, or all the potentialities of nature. Purusha uses Prakriti to drive evolution, but it has to work with the 3 qualities of Prakriti: truth, energy, and darkness. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna concerns himself with people like Arjuna, who are characterized by truth, but he also has things to say about energy and darkness-motivated individuals. In chapters 10 and 11, he gives Arjuna an overwhelming vision of himself as he really is. The second school of Hindu philosophy that the Gita expounds is yoga. There are several types of yoga, and the term has little to do with modern Western conceptions. At bottom, many, if not most, are concerned with achieving union with God. The chief exponent of Hindu yoga, Patanjali, probably lived at around the time the Gita was written, or just afterwards. The Bhagavad Gita is radical insofar as, perhaps under the influence of Buddhist critiques of Hinduism, it has little time for the formal ritualism of the Vedas. Its big concern is that people should do the right thing. Mainly, but not exclusively, their caste duty, with no hope of reward. In many ways, the Bhagavad Gita functions as what in the West came to be called a theodicy, a philosophical attempt to resolve the problem of evil. That problem goes like this. God, as he's been traditionally defined, is both omnipotent and omnibenevolent. Therefore, he should both want to bring an end to suffering and be able to bring an end to suffering. But suffering exists. Therefore, God, as he's traditionally been defined, can't exist. The Gita's response would be that the amount of suffering in the universe in the context of its billions of years lifespan has generally been exaggerated, and that where it does exist, it's part of a bigger picture in which all contraries are resolved. In the Gita's upcoming battle, no one will be killed. It's all Maya, so ultimately, it'll be okay. In the West, Irenaeus gave a similar response on behalf of the Christian faith, although since it didn't chime with later orthodoxy, it was effectively buried. The Gita started to be influential in the West after it was translated into English and Latin in the 18th century. It probably inspired the Romantic movement, and it almost certainly changed the course of Western philosophy. But as with all great works, it deserves to be read for its own sake, without hope of reward. Sorry, I couldn't resist that.